So, well, hello. Today, I was hoping to be able to go through a few properties, do a presentation on Kenya, and touch base on a few properties. When Tad and I had a chat about this, we thought, well, it'd be quite nice to try and find some of my more favorite places to visit in Kenya, and sort of try and focus more on the exclusivity, sort of owner-run properties, and a more sort of carefree safari, which sort of brought us on to thinking, your private playground in the bush. So the main reason for this was, Kenya has had a bit of a reputation in the past of being, a safari destination more for the mass tourism, with charter flights into Mombasa, a bit of a reputation of, with 50-minute minibuses around a lion. And yes, this is not entirely incorrect because, in migration season, in the Masai Mara, it can get pretty busy, and in the, in the main parks. But Kenya does have so much more. And in some ways, I think it's a much more exclusive safari destination than many others in Africa. And so what I was going to do was just sort of talk to you about some of the work that a lot of people have, or certain people have been doing in terms of turning ranches into private conservancies, working well with the community in terms of their land, and sort of having both wildlife with communities living in unison. And I guess when you think about considering the sort of subject matter of a private exclusive getaway, there are plenty of areas to think of and to look at in terms of, if you consider the Tana Delta down by, the coastal region, you've got the vast expanse of Asavo east and west, which leads into the Chulu Hills. And then you've got the forests of the Loita Hills, as well as Kakamega Forest. And then you've got the Matthews Range that goes right up to the desert lake of Turkana. So there's plenty of areas that can be off the beaten track. But, you'll be probably surprised, but I am going to focus on 4 properties in the Laikipia Plateau, just because I do find it incredible sort of wildlife place. Each area is also very different, and each property offers something unique. We've also gone with 2 properties in the Masai Mara. And the main reason, again, for this is that, accessibility. So everyone wants to go to the Mara. And so let's try and find somewhere that is going to give you something a little bit more freedom than being in the reserve and sort of chasing the migration. So in this presentation, I'm also going to just quickly cover on who we are at Albatros. And then from there, we will then take you to what I would consider some of the better properties to look at. And it's not just down to being sort of over the top in terms of price wise, but we've also tried to focus on a bit more on the value, so these areas offering you great experiences, but at a good value. So if I start with Albatros, so it's a family owned, it's owned by Soren and Berit, who are this couple here. He's a biologist, started off with him and taking his friends off on safari to Kenya. And then from there, he's now developed a very big company based in Denmark, handling about 40,000 clients globally, outbound. He owns 4 Arctic expedition cruise ships. He arranges adventure marathons, around the world, the Great Wall of China being an example, the Polar Marathon and the Petra Marathon. So offices wise, it's sort of also grown. We've got the Denmark, Copenhagen office. We've got Greenland, China, India, Japan, and then in Africa, we've got South Africa. And I would like to then focus on our offices in East Africa, so in Kenya and Tanzania. So in East Africa, so Jen, my wife, and I, we run the 2 offices here. I have been in Tanzania now 21 years, and I've been working for Albatros for 12 years. I've thoroughly enjoyed working for them because they've pretty much let me run these two offices as I would like to and give us a free rein. So it makes it a lot more fun. It means that we can also sort of focus on what we believe is important as a DMC. So, of course, we've got a few points that that all DMCs would have in terms of being personalized, having our own vehicles, etc. But I guess where I would really like to sort of focus is we are a sort of mid-sized company. We've got the backing from our head office, so that gives us a very good buying power. We're AAA credit rating. We've also got, I think one of the key things really is having the two offices in both Kenya and in Tanzania, full cross-border safaris, which gives us our real strength. The other point I think I would probably like to really sort of focus on is we have what we call a client liaison officer. And that's really just someone that meets your clients at the beginning, at the end. But what we do ensure that happens is that he will be sending you an email as your clients arrive and when your clients leave. So, which I think is important and has been, really basically many people whom we work with have found a huge benefit and feel that it's a much more personalized service that we're giving them. And it also means that it's it's great for them to then be able to contact their clients and already have a heads up as to what they've been doing, what their clients have seen, such as the highlights and if there's any issues that need to be addressed.
Jules, if I can jump in real quick,
yeah.
Just to also emphasize the fact that you're a trade-only DMC. So I think sometimes important for some of our agents to know that they're not competing with their supplier in this case. You do not list rates or have itineraries on your website. You're solely focused in East Africa on the B2B business and developing those relationships with your trade partners.
Exactly, yes. We wouldn't put anything out there. Yeah, this is our business model. Obviously, it's the way we want to work, and we don't have the resources to be wanting to go direct to the consumer, and we just never have. So if we also talk about our vehicles, I know a lot of DMCs have their own vehicles. So do we. We've got the conventional Land Cruisers. We've obviously made sure that they're fully kitted with all the things that you would need, such as your fridges, your there's the charging points. We're also now trying to go down the path of having your own water bottles that each client will be given, and having a water dispenser in the back. So in terms of vehicles, yes, a lot of people, everyone has their own vehicles. I obviously try and include as much as I can in our vehicles, and obviously make sure that they're, maintained, and also make sure that we keep the fleet young as well, which is also important.
And you have your own Land Cruisers both in Tanzania as well as in Kenya.
Exactly, yes. We've got more in Tanzania. Kenya, we've got fewer. We've just got the 3 because Kenya tends to be quite a bit of flying safaris, but that's what the general form is, or there's portions that are driven and flown. So at the moment, 3 works well with us, with the hope of obviously increasing. But obviously the key to any DMC is your guides. And I do think we've got great guides, and we make sure we look after them. Many of them have been with us for, ages. I mean, some of them since I arrived. So yeah, there's a few who've been longer than I've been at Albatros. And obviously the key is you need to make sure you do the training. And we do that every year. We use a guy called Clint. I'm sure some of you may have heard of him, but he's just great, and the guides absolutely love him. So he's been doing it now for, I think it's 4 years now, or 5 years. and they go off for a week, both Kenya and Tanzania. The last time they went, they were in Tarangire National Park, and they have a blast, and they obviously learn a lot. And I think and also gives a bond between the two officers as well.
Don't you often also combine that with the East Africa birding competition? And
yeah, we did that. We've done that. Yeah, you're right. We have done that 3 times, where we mix them up, and it's a 24-hour. It's organized in Arusha, and it's 24 hours, and they drive around within a 100-kilometer radius to find as many bird species as they can. Okay, they haven't won yet, but they've done well. They've done well. So
good
no,
practical,
it's a lot of fun.
Good practical hands-on training.
Yes, exactly. And it's funny because they're all always up against Clint as well, who always does that competition. So if we now let's looking at Kenya, as I said, you know, here's a map of Kenya. If you look down onto the map on the right hand side, there's Lamu. So as I was saying, all these areas that, you know, the Tana River Delta, you've got Savo East and West going up to Chulu Hills, etc. And basically, there's just so many different areas within Kenya, and where, you know, what I'm going to do is just focus, as I said, on Laikipia and also on the Masai Mara, and I'm also including one property which will be in Nairobi, which is Emakoko. Now, Nairobi National Park, basically, the reason we've chosen somewhere in Nairobi is that you know, trying to find a boutique property in Nairobi, of course, the usual, you know, the names of Giraffe Manor, Giraffe Manor, and
You bet. Siri is clearly very excited about the Emakoko.
I think so. So, well, there's Giraffe Manor, and there's Hemingway's, and then there's the 148 that sort of people tend to use. And I would just like to focus on Nairobi National Park. I just think it's an amazing park that many of us miss. It does mean that you need to have 2 nights. I mean, to do 1 night it's just not doing it any justice. But if you can do the 2 nights, it's 40 minutes from JKIA. You're straight into a national park. It's 29,000 acres of bush. It's got 76 black rhinos, 17 white, and it's probably one of the best places to see rhino. There's over 40 lion there, so good chances of seeing the rhino. So in theory, you've got what I guess you call it the big 4, because there's no elephant, but if you've got easy access to Daphne Sheldrick's Wildlife Trust, so you will get to see the orphaned elephants should you want to. So that's why I really want to include Emakoko, because I think it's a boutique property in Nairobi National Park, and it's a great way to start your safari to Kenya. So if you look at this map, I've sort of written Emakoko Lodge down there it's by the Mbagathi Gorge, or the river, and it's, as I said, 40 minutes from Jomo Kenyatta Airport, no traffic. It's about 30 to 40 minutes to Wilson Airport, and it's about 30 to 40 minutes to the Daphne Sheldrick orphanage, where you drive through the park as opposed to going into any traffic. So for that reason, I think there's a lot to do. And the park itself, as I said, is pretty, it's great. It's a great little park, and you get to see a lot. It's also, why did I also choose it? It's because of the activities. So Emakoko, it's run by Anton and Emma Charles. So they own a run. And as I think these pictures just sort of depict, obviously there's the Daphne Sheldricks, it's the black rhino viewing that you've got, and also some amazing sightings of lion and buffaloes, etc. So, and at the price range, so if we look at Emakoko and you consider the price range of fully inclusive with transfers, it's around the 505 with transfers included. So Giraffe Manor is about 875. 148 is 495, but that's just on half board, no transfers, and Hemingway's is 385 on bed and breakfast. So all in all, I think you are getting an amazing experience at a pretty good price for what you get. So there are 10 rooms only, 5 on the sort of, it's along the river, as I said, in Bugatti Ridge. There's 5 rooms at the bottom of the, I guess it's escarpment. You've got, which makes it easier access to the main areas, because it is quite a climb to go up to the escarpment level. But he has put in a climbing, a lift, I guess, a train that
Funicular.
goes up. Yes, exactly, one of those. And it's, and that is sort of being put in now. I think he's probably had it in there for 6 months now, and it's working really well. It's great for, you know, people can sit in it, go up, and you're on the top level, which then gives you great views. But both the lower level and top level are fantastic. I think if you look at the rooms, they're very spacious, you know, beautiful bathrooms, and yeah, you know, I think you're getting an incredible property for the price range. And I think, you know, if you look at some of the deals that they're giving as well, sort of staying for the second night, I think, you know, you can get a discount on that. And the other aspect of Emakoko is their villa. So their villa is a fully, you know, 2-bedroomed living room. It's got its own kitchen, own swimming pool, a great place for families to escape to. As you can see, it's right on the top of the ridge. And even for slightly larger groups, you could have people taking the normal rooms and still all dining together in this, in the villa. So
I think the other point to make, Jules, is the individual cottages. The 10 individual cottages are all individual. They're standalone. So as they put on their website, as the Emakoko puts on their website, social distancing is something that has been a part of their everyday lives since they opened, because of these cottages really being self-contained. So for those that are concerned and want to have more distance, they're well spaced apart, and they are standalone cottages. Plus then, as you just described, they've got this fantastic private house at the top of the ridge there, as you can see on your screen. So lots of options for privacy, whether that's exclusive use of the house or in your own individual cottage, you're already socially distancing.
yeah, I think, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so all in all, I think it's a great boutique property, and there aren't that many to choose from in Nairobi. So it's a great bet for a Nairobi accommodation. And if now let's move on to the Laikipia Plateau. So as I said, we're going to sort of focus on here for maybe 4 properties. It is a fantastic area in Kenya, and originally it was livestock ranches, and now it's probably, you know, one of East Africa's finest and most exclusive wildlife destination. There are 12 conservancies. There's also community land, so 76 registered community lands and 58 private lands that have a mix of wildlife and farming. In this area alone, 50% of Kenya's black rhino are here, and about 75% of its white rhino. And the other sort of cool thing about it is that it also has the northern species in here, such as the Grevy's, you know, the Grevy's zebra, the Gerenuk. You'll see oryx here as well, the reticulated giraffe, as well as the Somali ostrich. Yeah, so, and each area is also, I mean, they're all diverse. They've all got their unique little aspects to it. I'm going to sort of move on to Old Pejeta as a conservancy, as one of the conservancies I'd like to talk about. Now, the reason I wanted to use, you know, to go with Old Pejeta, it's just because generally it's had this sort of the reputation of being the poorer relative to, say, the Lewas and Boranas. But I do think, you know, it's been around for a while. I was there sort of recently, I think, well, when I say recently, about a year ago. And it is a fantastic conservancy, and the work that has gone there is quite remarkable as well. And the reason, you know, obviously why it's well known is because of the, you know, the last two of the northern white rhinos, but it's also a great place for interacting with the conservancy, and in terms of what they do to, or what goes behind the scenes of a conservancy. So sort of my favorite things is that all the activities that are available there. So, I mean, one of the things we did is obviously going to the anti-poaching dog unit. So here we are with the bloodhounds, and they do a, you know, sort of a demo where, you know, one of you walks off, or one of the kids can walk off, and then the other kids go and follow with the scent. They've got Diego, the Malinois, Belgian Malinois, which he's quite a magnificent dog, and they give you a demonstration of him chasing down a pretend poacher and then bringing him down. Other activities such as, you know, you can go lion tracking. Also, again, exciting for kids because you start hearing it clicking away, and the closer you get, the quicker it clicks, and then you go and find the lion pride. Walking opportunities, which I think is a must nowadays. You know, people do want to get out of the vehicles and not just be on game drive, endless game drives. They want to be able to walk and get to see different aspects of the bush. Baraka is the blind rhino that they look after in I think it's in a 100-acre private enclosure for Baraka. But it does mean you can go up and feed him, and it's just interesting. It's just getting close to the animals, and they've also now introduced horse riding for those that can and want to, and you ride amongst the rhinos, which I think would be quite a fantastic experience. So now we will talk about a property within Old Pejeta. So here's a map of Old Pejeta. And as you'll see on that left-hand side is pretty much the busiest part. It's where, you know, you've got the chimpanzee sanctuary, that's where the endangered species area, that's where the dogs are kept. And yes, it is open to a number of school buses that are allowed in. You know, anyone can come in to visit, and it does make it seem rather busy. But again, you know, the school buses, it's important because what they're doing is educating the community on conservation and living with wildlife and the importance of it. So in that sense, it's a huge plus. But if you look to the left side, you'll see there's a massive wilderness area where most people do not go to. And we've only got a selection of a few properties there. And we went to visit one, which is Old Pejeta Safari Cottages, which is circled there right at the bottom. And Jen and I just, you know, it was sort of when it was just sort of opened, which I think it was a while back now, 2 years or 3 years now. And, but we just loved it. We just thought it was, you know, the drive to get there is through, you know, different landscapes. It's along a small little riverine, and there's plenty of game, and it's you know, it's something that we wanted to promote. And as you'll see how it's tucked in, and it's got a true sort of wilderness feeling in there, and, you know, with savanna as well as tree line, you know, forest. The actual lodge itself, well, it's made up of 4 cottages. 2 of them are 1 bedrooms and 2 of them are 2 bedroom. Each cottage has its own kitchen. It's all self-contained with your own dining room. And again, this makes for a, you know, sort of a exclusive experience and a private experience. So you have your own chef, your own waiter. And so if you want to take this out just as a honeymooners, it works brilliantly. If you want to be a sort of family, it works well. They give you exclusive use of vehicle for each cottage. And if you sort of consider the rack rate of 520 all-inclusive, I think it's pretty phenomenal. And on top of that, you know, they've now introduced fly camping, where the owner, Andy, will actually take you off on a walking safari. So you'll sort of generally leave at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, arrive in camp for sundowner, overnight, morning walk, breakfast, and then a walk back to your cottage. So I think the reason I really wanted to promote this was namely the activities, being able to get out, having a sort of exclusive feel as well. It doesn't, it isn't overly expensive. And as a conservancy, I wanted people to realize that it isn't just a sort of mass, lots of people there. It's actually a lovely wilderness area with some fantastic conservation, as well as incredible rhino sightings. And, sanctuary lodges are about to put in a camp there themselves, which I guess sort of reiterates that, that they're also willing to invest in this conservancy and put in a sort of high-end property.
And I think just to emphasize the point that it's owned and operated and hosted by Sonia and Andy, and who's a Zimbabwean professional guide. And so you really do get an exceptional level of personalized service from the owners on site, who host just about every guest, I believe, Jules. And then you do have that exclusivity of having your own personal butler and chef in your cottage as well. So really, yes, just and I think, personal from top to bottom and exclusive.
Yeah, and then obviously your own, as you say, your own guide to take you around. So I think it's pretty. They offer a lot, and it's also a very very nice accommodation as well. So what I'd now like to move on to is Sosien. So if we look on the map, it's sort of more in the central part of the Laikipia Plateau. It's about 5.5 hour drive from Nairobi. From Nanyuki, it's probably an hour and a half, 2 hours from the airport there. It does have its own private airstrip if you want to charter in. And so what do I love about Sosien? Well, the main thing is, I think the lodge itself is lovely, elegant, yet informal. And it's really down to the activities. To me, this is probably, the real playground in terms of, you've got one property on about, I think it's 25,000 acres of wilderness. And it's also a working ranch as well. And they have so many activities, it's quite unbelievable to keep you entertained, and it's fantastic for children. So if we just go through a few of them, you've got obviously you've got the ranch. So, clients staying can go and visit and see a working cattle ranch. They've got the river going through. So, tubing. They've got a lovely waterfall that, quite often guests will go and just sort of jump off or at least swim in the river there. Kayaking as possible, fishing. So, considering there are only 7 rooms in this property, there's all these different things you can do, and there isn't anything that is, that is set in terms of, you will get up at this time for your morning game drive, and then this. It's whatever you'd like to do, and the other thing here is the game is. You've got fantastic wildlife. Okay, there's no rhino on this conservancy, but they do have great sightings of. I mean, there's no guarantee, but the wild dog sighting has been very good. Their walking safaris are fantastic as well, and they've got great guides. In terms of fly camping, that's possible. You can go down the sort of more rustic route of literally like a cowboy and sleep by the fireplace, or have your more standard sort of mobile tents that they take with you.
You would go with this style, Jules, I assume. Just
of course, yeah.
You under the stars. You don't even need the blanket.
Exactly. That's how I would roll. But it's not for everyone, Tab. Yeah. And then the lodge itself. So again, as I said, I think it's just beautiful. It's nothing over the top fancy, but again, it's very comfortable. It's just elegant, old colonial style. It's you've got the main area where you've got communal dining. It's even got a sort of billiards room as well, and then the 7 rooms. So if you look at the top left picture, you'll see there's 3 cottages off to the left, and then there's another cottage to the right of the main area. And each unit is 2 rooms. And at the end, you've got cottage number 3, which is 2 rooms, but one of those rooms also has a smaller attachment for children. So they call it the family room as well. So all in all, it's 7 rooms, has their own, you have your own private swimming pool, and, you know, and at a rate of, I think the rack rate is $700, but it includes everything. So it includes all your activities. If you want to go on a camel, you know, camel trek, or a horse riding, or pretty much anything you want to do, it's all catered for.
And if you do a takeover here, I think the maximum capacity is what, about 15 or 16? I mean, yeah, 16 people, a multi-generational family then has a 25,000 acre ranch and private wilderness all to themselves. It's pretty exceptional.
It is. And, you know, exactly that, to think that this is the only property that is fooling around in this wilderness area. I mean, it is the sort of place I could easily go 5 nights. Just, you know, you don't have to do much, chill out. There's a beautiful swimming pool. You've got all the other things that they organize, such as your bush dinners and breakfasts and whatever. And it's literally all there for you. So yeah, it's a sort of, I absolutely love it. And I think it's a lovely property. And at the price, it is not over the top considering what you're getting. But we'll move on to now, I guess, a little bit more of a adventure experience, which is Carissia Walking Safaris. And here, you know, it's run by Kerry and James, so they started it. And I guess what I sort of love about here is they've got 14,000 acres of their own private land, and they have access to community land as well. So what I think is exciting here is that you're really sort of going back to the adventure days where your safari, you're going on a walking safari, everything will be set up for you, but there's a purpose, and you're going from A to B to C and onwards. And you pass incredible scenery, you get to, you know, you have more authentic cultural interactions. I think the game that you see is also very good. But I think it's more when you get to camp and some of the views that you're going to have and where they cook the camps is really what you're going to take out of this, as well as learning from the Samburu that will be guiding you in terms of, you know, what this plant does, what they would use it for, learning to track animals, etc. So in that sense, it's a great adventure. Here they also have, they've also got rock climbing that they've introduced. Now, I haven't done this. Some of these photos, it looks kind of frightening.
I'm shocked. These aren't your photos hanging off the side of this.
No, but look at I love the fact that the kids they're probably the guinea pigs. They've just been sent up to see whether it's safe. But quite no. So I mean, they've introduced that, and it's. I think it's fun. They're basically just trying to find more interesting, fun things to do, and I think they're doing it really well. And I think Kerry and James are great hosts, and yeah, I think clients will have a, you know, sort of fantastic, adventurous experience with this. They've also got a camp called Tumaran Camp, and here this is the sort of base, I guess, for their whole operation. It's got 6 rooms. I think they've extended by another. I think it had 4, so they're now up to 6 rooms. Again, it's your classic safari tent, comfortable. In a way, you know, some people, I mean, when we went, we stayed here and used it as the base, and then did an overnight, you know, with the kids on the camels, and then did one night in a, you know, sort of a tented accommodation, and then back again to the main camp. So for that's a sort of more of a softer adventure, but I think
they call it the base camp walking safari, where you use Tumaran as your base camp, and then maybe have a night or 2 at a satellite camp, like you guys.
Yeah, normally just one night. Yeah, you'd spend most of it there and walk from camp, and then if you want, you can do a one night sort of satellite camp.
They they have some family tents. I believe that picture on the upper left is at Tumarin, one of their family tents that has the 2 single beds for kids plus mom and dad next door.
Yes. And then the bathrooms are sort of not en suite per se. You walk out, but they're big, spacious, very comfortable. I mean, very nice. And yeah, so I think it's a lovely camp. It's an adventure camp, and that's what they want to be. You know, price bracket. It's what is it? 550 rack rate per person. You know, and considering again, you've got this entire area to yourself. So again, you've got exclusivity. If you want to go on a game drive, you know, off-road driving is not a problem. The cultural aspect to it as well. So there's a lot to be offered, you know, that they offer here. And then obviously for the more, sorry.
I was just going to say, and it's hosted by Carrie and James. Again, that owner-operated hosting element that really brings in the personal side of things, which makes it all the more of a kind of home away from home experience for guests.
Yeah. And then you've got their camping side, which is obviously the when you go with, you know, on the sort of 3, 4, 5 day expedition with the camels. Basically, the camels tend to carry all the equipment to the next camp. If you want to ride them, there are some there to be ridden. I would say, you know, I don't find them very comfortable, so maybe I prefer to walk actually. But it's a bit of fun for the kids to go up and have a ride on a camel, especially the getting up and the getting down bit. But it's new, it's different, it's exciting, and when
really,
you get to camp,
really an Instagram for these times. It's really an Instagram moment of picture on the camel, maybe a video getting on or off the camel, and ride it for a few minutes and call it good.
Yeah, well, exactly. So yeah, and the food I think was exceptional. I mean, Tad, when we went, we thought it was great food. I think that the setting is really what matters, and it's just that real campsite feeling that you're in the middle of nowhere, you're listening to everything, and it's a true adventure. We loved it when we went.
The picture in the upper left of that meal setup is our lunch when we arrived at our second camp on the fam trip we did a couple of years ago. This little camp tucked into the top of a hillside overlooking the land below the Matthews Range. And just, and again, you know, everybody in the safari industry has heard this a million times, but it's just amazing the food that can be created in these bush kitchens. And this one, again, completely mobile, just set up for us that day. And they delivered an absolutely incredible lunch feast for us, and with an amazing view as well. So they do it right.
Yeah. So then sort of moving on from that sort of more adventurous and sort of, you know, mixing with the bush itself is Borana Conservancy. So this conservancy was started by Michael Dyer, who's sort of 4th generation Kenyan. It was a cattle ranch, and it's on the border with Lewa, which is, you know, which is well known. But so they've opened up their borders between Borana and Lewa, so making it an amazing sort of 92,000 acres of bush for the animals to roam within. And it's and I think that the key here is really the conservation effort that goes into Borana. So, you know, at the moment they've got I think a security team of 124 individuals, 13 of which are women who are also getting into the whole sort of conservation stroke ranger life, which is great. And there's so in a way, I think with Borana, what we really love is that it's similar to Sosyan in terms of that complete freedom, being able to do whatever you want. You know, it literally is again the playground in the bush. The activities, another thing, they offer lots of activities, from your riding, you know, mountain biking, walking.
Just before we jump in,
oh, sorry.
the activities, Jules, just to show the map where you can see Borana and Lewa connected. There are no fences between the two, as you said. 92,000 acres of private wilderness, and only in Borana, I think, 4 properties, two or three of which are exclusive use, plus Borana Lodge, and then 100 plus black rhino, additional white rhino that roam this area. So a really wild landscape, and again, a private playground. Getting back to all the activities on offer, as we see here on this slide.
Yeah, I mean, as you were saying, that it's 109 black rhino, 97 white rhino was the last figures I was given, and I was told that between 2017 to 2019, they've had a 10% increase, and Borana has had 0 poaching in over 5 years, and I think that's due to the efforts of the rangers, and obviously the guys making sure that they're out there and protecting the wildlife, which I think is where it maybe sets it apart from Sosyan, is that aspect. I love Sosyan, as I mentioned, but what I love about here is you've also got the black rhinos being able to join the rangers to track them. In the evenings, they go to various sites where they're all set up to also protect and patrol in the evening. So you can go with them to where they'll be patrolling that evening.
And we did that on our visit. The last time I was at Borana, both went to the ranger base for their roll call, essentially, and got to see them do their roll call and get their assignments for the evening. Get to talk with those guys, with the APU guys, and really, it's an amazingly professional organization. Not unlike a military style organization in terms of their standards and their organization. And then we actually went out to see where they deployed for the night, and again got to hear about what their plans were, what they were tracking, who they were looking for. And then the following morning, a couple of us actually did a rhino walk where we went out with the rangers early in the morning to track black rhino from the night before. And that's just, again, it's you, the ranger, the anti-poaching ranger, and 92,000 acres. And it feels like you're completely on your own looking for the rhino, which we did find, and it was an exceptional experience. But these guys are incredible, what they do. And what's cool is you can participate in that, as a guest, and feel like you're a part of it, or an honorary ranger for an afternoon or a morning.
It's true. And then I think with it comes which is obviously a more serious aspect to Borana, but then if you want, you've got that more carefree aspect as well of being, going on your game drives, then walking out. There's no regimented times of when you do anything. It's whatever you want to do. So I love that, also that sort of laid back. And if we look at some of the other activities that they offer, sort of a trip to the Ngarandara forest, which I absolutely love. The kids loved it as well, where you've got the canopy walk, you've got the pools as well, and the waterfalls, and you can go swimming in them. And it's a great experience, and it's a sort of half-day adventure. So it's very close by, but just allow half a day. Again, there's a lot of work done with the community, so that on a cultural aspect, you can get very much involved with that. Fly camping for those that would like to, just go off for a night, go for a walk, and then fly camp out in the conservancy somewhere. And then again, visits to the actual farm itself, and seeing how they manage both the ranching with the wildlife. And so there's a lot that you can, come back with. And I think they're more interactive in terms of their conservation efforts, and are very happy to show people what they do and teach people. And I know we've actually had some clients come back again and have gone and stayed sort of a week to get involved, and just spent their time in Borana. They sort of got to know the guys, and I think that's another great thing. Now, if we go on to the lodge itself, so Borana is it's got 8 rooms. It's not super. I mean, it's lovely. I think that all the rooms are amazing. I think the photos show it. It's not polished. It's more kind of rustic, a rustic chic, I guess. I love the feel of it because I think everything is just kind of a bit quirky. No room is the same. Out of the 8 rooms, you've got 4 that are standalone cottages, and then 2 other cottages that are sort of family rooms. So you've got two rooms joined together. Rack rate here is 700. That includes everything, all your activities. I mean, you have to pay an additional for the conservancy fees. So most of these places, you'll have to pay an additional conservancy fee. But at $700 per person, I think it's I do think you get a great experience. I mean, I guess the only thing one would be wary of is it is on the ridge, and there's quite a, from the main area to the last room is quite a hike. I mean, I was staying at one of the bottom rooms, and got to admit, in the mornings, I did think, crikey, I better get fitter if I'm ever going to come back here. So you just need to be aware of that. But the top rooms are all on the same level. So the standalone properties are all pretty much on the same level. So if we then move on to a couple of the other properties, and I'll just run through these. The reason we wanted to sort of include them was because they are private houses. So we've got Larogai House, 8 bedrooms. 4 of them you need to, are more of the more luxurious side, and they're facing with the views. And then you've got 2 that are en suite that are also spacious and nice, but without the views, and 2 rooms that are really just for children. But it's a great sort of 8 rooms, family get together. It's fantastic. Again, we've gone through Borana, why you should be there. I had a friend of mine that got married here because just the views are to die for. So for that Larogai house, I think it's great. Price-wise, $750 per person if 6 are there, I think is a great price point. Ari Juju is more, it's more your higher end new property that's come out, looking at 5 rooms in a private villa, 1,500 per person per night. So again, more expensive than Larogai, but it does offer some, it's very high end, and any client going there that can afford it will love it.
We stopped there on the last fam trip that I was on, and it's a stunning property. I mean, it's almost completely hidden into the bush. It really truly blends into the environment. It's apparently designed and influenced after the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela in Ethiopia, so it has a bit of a Middle Eastern, Ethiopian, even Moroccan feel to it, which was quite unique. But really, it's the views from just about anywhere of Mount Kenya and the Matthews Range from other spots are just stunning, and that you can see the roof deck there where you can do a star bed. It feels both very contemporary on one hand, but at the same time very ancient. So it does a nice job of melding the two, while also being super luxurious, as you said, Jules, but also very comfortable. One of those, understated luxury where you can just flop down. And again, it is your own house for however long you're there. But it doesn't feel like you're gonna, if you knock something over, you're gonna break a $10,000 lamp kind of place. It is very understated in some ways, but really it's just about being tucked into the bush and having these spectacular views, and the 32,000 acres of Borana as well as your private playground. And that rack rate's $1,500 per person which is up to 6. I think it's max 10, but that includes 5 hours of spa and beauty treatments per day. And when you consider that some of the higher end properties in the Mara are $1,500 per person, and they're not exclusive use, and sometimes more than $1,500 per night, it really is a pretty amazing value given all that you get for it, and the level of privacy and exclusivity that you have. We loved it. I would stay there. Jules, if I need to go stay there for a few nights, I'm happy to do that. If you need me to.
I'll arrange it for you. Easily done. Well, let's move on quickly because I'm sure we're running out of time. So we'll move now on to the Masai Mara. So as mentioned, it needs no introduction. Arguably Africa's premier game park. However, you know, there are a lot of properties there. And what we're trying to establish is, can we find somewhere that gives you that, again, sort of your private playground in the bush. Now, we've chosen offbeat Mara. Now, the reason we've gone with offbeat, there's a number of reasons. Firstly, is the Mara North Conservancy. It's a great conservancy. I mean, it's got 74,000 acres of wilderness area. It's an instrumental part of the whole Mara ecosystem. And it's a community-based program. So, you know, basically it's getting people, 800 Maasai landowners together to agree to have this as a wilderness area. I mean, that's a pretty tough thing, and they've done an incredible job. And so obviously there is Maasai and wildlife together, but they have certain zones that they can and cannot go in depending on the time of year. So again, you have a very sort of private, exclusive feel when you're in the Mara North. I mean, there are quite a few properties in there, but there is a sort of understanding between them. Offbeat, why did we go with offbeat? Location in the Mara North, I think, is fantastic. You know, they're sort of away from the other camps. The other aspect that we love about offbeat is that their walking safaris are exceptional. You know, I think they do I personally feel they do a better job than many others that say they can do walking safaris. They are part of the, you know, obviously the offbeat group, which do their riding safaris as well as Socian. So the group are, you know, they're into that sort of adventure style of safari. Again, what I love about it is that there are no rules. So it's not, you know, whenever you want to go on a game drive, you go on a game drive. They arrange your, you know, bush breakfast and bush lunches. If you want to go on a walk, you can. In the rate, everything is included. So for that, I think it makes it quite special about, instead of having all these, you know, added activities at an extra cost. The other thing is, I guess, location in the Mara North is that they're pretty close to the Mara Reserve, allowing them quick access to river crossings should your client want to experience that. So they've got easy access to the migration crossings. And they can do night game drives as well. I think one of the other key things is their guides are Maasai. They've been with them for the last 15 years, I think they've been open 15 years. And if you look at the price point, they're at $495, which includes everything. In peak season, which is just July and August, they are at $695. So again, intimate camp. They do have 7 tents. 2 of them are family tents. It's, as you can see, it's more your traditional style of tent. So there is bucket showers, but very comfortable, electricity, flush loos, a wilderness experience. And your main areas are, you know, more, you know, bricks and mortar along the small riverine that they've got there. It's not fenced, so it's open, so you do get animals coming through. And I think it's a fantastic sort of safari experience in the Masai Mara, where you've still got an element of adventure, where you're not restricted to you know, having to be in and out of the park at a certain time, not allowed to go off road, etc., and being able to go on your walks if you want to.
It's really,
so that's why
I think, a great camp for the safari purist. You know, from the tented style, the old school tented style, to having all of these activities beyond the game vehicle.
Yeah, and it's related to Socian as well, so that, you know, you can get good deals if you want to combine the two, if that's what clients would like to do. So we'll then go to our next property, which is House in the Wild. Now, this is one of our favorites. I guess maybe one could say I'm being a bit biased because I do know the owners quite well. Our kids go to the same school, and I've known them for years. So you've got Lipper and Tarquin, or Peach, as he's known as, and they're just great fun. And they meet all the clients. It's obviously very family friendly. So their location is they basically have access to 3 conservancies. So quite away from the Mara Reserve itself, but they've got Lemek is sort of the main sort of conservancy that they do a lot of their game drives in. They're on the Mara River. They have their own sort of private 1,000-acre ranch that you can do walks in, and there's a lot of plains game there. And if you go out of their own private area, you're into the other conservancies, which allows you, some fantastic game viewing, as well as, walking opportunities and all the adventures you would expect to get from a conservancy. Also, there's a lot of interaction with the rangers there as well. You can go and visit the ranch. There's a rhino sanctuary close by, which is a lot of fun, especially, for anyone. And, again, activities. So, as we said, a playground. There's lots to be done in the bush. And with hosts such as Peach and Lipper, you're going to have a great time. And, and from what I hear, the game is just getting better and better.
And the house itself, because it is on a working cattle ranch, is fenced, I believe. So you do have that security, especially for kids. And you can then do your walks and go running, horseback riding, bike riding on this ranch without concern about, big game. But then, like you say, you've got the conservancies right on the doorstep for your game viewing as well. So for those families that might be a little bit nervous, like where Offbeat is open with no fences, and you're in more of your safari purist style, for those that aren't into having game around and being quite so, I guess, authentic, old school safari, this is a great alternative to that style in feeling a little bit more secure with the families on the property itself.
Exactly. And and every room is well spread out, and they can cater, for, if those that want to be, just staying privately. So it's, again, one of those weird things, great for families, also pretty awesome for honeymooners, and sort of it seems to fit in for everyone. But yeah, I think the idea here is the flexibility, freedom, and again, that's why we've chosen it. It's just that, it's a nice, comfortable property that is quite intimate and offers a lot.
How many cottages, Jules?
Well, you've got 4 units. So there's, which I guess you can call a cottage, but one of them has got 2 bedrooms, or 2 of them have got 2 bedrooms. So you've got the original cottage, which has 2 bedrooms, and I think it shares a bathroom. Then you've got the Marula cottage, and that has 2 double ensuite. So if you look at the picture here, I think it's the one behind that you can see in the swimming pool area with its own, which has its own sort of private area. And then you've got the 2 double single units as well along the river. So you've got River Cottage. And and then you've also got the actual villa, which is a 4-bedroom villa with an additional room that it's more for kids, so it has an overflow for kids. So this can only be taken on exclusive use. It's on the Conservacy as well, so it's all fenced in. And as we were saying, lots of cultural opportunities as well. And some, and Lipper and Peach always organize some great sort of sundowners on the escarpment. So there's lots to do. And, we really think it's a great property for anyone wanting to visit the Mara and getting some great game, as well as having a bit of fun without being regimented.
Speaking of having fun, you said Peach has his private pilot's license. So this is his plane.
Yeah, well, he's now got his commercial pilot's license. So he's got his 206, which is a 6-seater. But if you include the pilot, then you've got 5 people that can sit in it. And he's happy to, he does, at a cost, obviously, but he does the scenic flights over the Masai Mara, so that you can, just have a fly around and see all the various areas. So that makes it a bit of fun. And again, I think that's what he's about. Lipper and him is just, come there, have a lot of fun, relax, or be as busy as you want.
Fantastic, so Jules. This has been great. We're going to open it up for questions now, and we'll let you enter those questions into the Q&A, and we'll be ready to answer those. Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks.